My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 37 years old, and for most of my life I believed I understood people better than they understood themselves. I built a quiet, structured world for myself, a stable job in digital forensics, a small but carefully arranged apartment, and a daily routine that never surprised me. I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't particularly joyful either. I existed in a predictable balance, believing that stability was the closest thing to peace a person could hope for. And then I met her. Elena Morris entered my life like a perfectly timed mistake. She was bright where I was calm, impulsive where I was measured, and somehow she made the air in every room feel warmer just by breathing in it. I didn't expect anything from her at first, but she lingered. She asked questions, remembered small details, laughed in ways that disarmed my cynicism. Before I understood what was happening, she had taken a place in my life I didn't realize I had kept empty. For 2 years, I thought I knew her. I thought the softness in her voice belonged to me, the quiet confessions whispered at night were meant only for my ears. I thought I had found something rare, connection deep enough to silence the ghost of loneliness I had carried for years, but everything changed the afternoon I noticed something was wrong. It started small. Elena stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. Her phone, once left casually on the couch or kitchen counter, became glued to her hand. She'd angle the screen away from me without thinking. She started dressing differently, not dramatically, just intentionally. Perfume she never wore before. A shade of lipstick she used to say didn't suit her, now suddenly her favorite. I tried to dismiss it. People evolve, tastes change, but a quiet tension formed in my chest, growing with each unexplained smile she gave her phone. Each evening she returned home a little later than the last. The moment everything cracked wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was a simple, cruel sentence spoken absent-mindedly. She came home late again, and when I brushed my hand across her back as she walked past, she flinched and snapped, "Nathan, don't touch me right now." Not angry, not sad, just cold. Cold in a way she had never been with me. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Something heavy, something final. I didn't confront her. I didn't demand answers. I simply observed. Observation was my talent after all. My profession. People lied. Data did in single quotes. Over the next week, I tracked subtle changes. Her location patterns didn't match her schedule. Her messages were buried under apps she never used before. Her laptop stayed locked even when she left the room for a glass of water. And each night, as I pretended to sleep, I listened to her breathing steady, relaxed, while my own heart refused to calm. The final confirmation came 3 days later. Elena said she'd be meeting her coworker, Mara, for a late project deadline. I waited 15 minutes after she left, then accessed the building's parking lot cameras, a habit I had never imagined using for personal reasons. Her car didn't head toward the office. It turned toward the coast highway, a place she only went when she wanted to avoid being seen. I followed at a distance, not close enough to be noticeable, just close enough to see her pull into a small beachside motel, the kind that charges by the hour. I watched as she stepped out of her car, smoothing her hair, checking her reflection. And then he arrived, a man I had never seen before, tall, confident, the kind of arrogance that radiates from posture alone. He smiled at her like he already owned her. She laughed, the laugh she once saved for me, and they walked inside together. I didn't move. I didn't curse. I didn't cry. I simply watched the door close behind them and understood, with terrifying clarity, that everything I believed about her, everything she let me believe, was a beautifully constructed lie. But there was something strange, something wrong. The man looked familiar. Not a friend, not even an acquaintance, but a face I had seen in case files. A face tied to corporate data leaks, cybercrime investigations, illegal transfers masked behind anonymous accounts. And suddenly, Elena's recent behavior, her secrecy, her stress, Her disappearing hours pointed toward something far more dangerous than simple betrayal. I wasn't just dealing with a faithless partner. I was dealing with someone who had stepped into something reckless, criminal, and deeply concealed. That was the moment my grief hardened into purpose. This wasn't only about her cheating. This was about understanding why, who the man was, what they were involved in, and how deeply she had dragged me into something I never asked to be part of. Because if Elena was connected to the kind of people I thought she was, her betrayal was only the surface of a much darker truth. A truth I needed to uncover before it destroyed both of us, and I would uncover it, not as her partner, not as her victim, but as the one person capable of dismantling secrets she didn't even realize she had exposed. This was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. The more I replayed everything I had seen, her nervous glances at her phone, the unfamiliar number she deleted from her recent calls, the way she adjusted her hair in the mirror before stepping outside, the more the truth stopped feeling like a wound and turned into something sharper, more deliberate. It was no longer pain. It was fuel. For the next few days I behaved exactly as I always had. The same tone of voice, the same good morning kiss on the cheek, the same casual "how was work?" at dinner. If Amelia sensed anything off, she hid it well, maybe because she was too consumed by whatever she was hiding. Maybe because she never believed I could be truly dangerous to her plans. But something else happened, something I hadn't expected. The more distance grew between us internally, the more she started acting cautious. She wasn't colder. She wasn't kinder. She was watchful. Suddenly she asked more questions. Where I'd been, what I was working on, whether I planned to come home early or late, as if she wanted to plot around me or avoid me entirely. One Friday afternoon she sent me a message. I might be home later tonight. Don't wait up. No explanation. No details. Just the same pattern repeating itself. But this time, instead of following her, I decided to change the direction of the game. I went into her office. The room wasn't locked. She assumed I'd never have a reason to go inside. Everything was neat, organized, as if she lived two separate lives and wanted to make sure neither one ever overlapped. A laptop on the desk, a notebook with dates and quick notes, receipts in a small metal tray, and then a drawer that didn't open fully. Not stuck, restricted. A magnetic lock that told me everything I needed to know. People hide what they fear to lose, or what they fear others will see. I didn't break it open, not yet. Instead, I examined the small adhesive mark inside the drawer's edge, subtle, but clear enough for someone who pays attention to details. She'd installed the lock herself. Recently, very recently. What was inside that she didn't want me to find? I left the office untouched. Knowing the existence of a secret is more powerful than exposing it too early. That evening, Amelia came home even later than she'd warned. Her hair was slightly messy, her makeup faded, but she didn't look guilty. She looked irritated, at me, at herself, at the world, as if she were tired of pretending but forced to continue anyway. "You're still awake?" she asked, surprised. I smiled. "Just working." She hesitated, then nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. No kiss, no conversation, nothing. The silence in our house was becoming a living thing. The next morning I left before she woke up. I needed clarity, not about her betrayal, but about the man she was risking everything for. Ethan hell. Everything about him felt wrong, not just the arrogance, not just the lazy confidence of someone used to getting what he wants. There was something darker beneath the surface, something Amelia either ignored or willingly embraced. I found him at the gym where he usually trained on weekends. People like him are predictable. Routine keeps their egos stable. He didn't notice me at first, too busy laughing with two other men who looked just like him, sculpted, loud, and painfully sure of themselves. When he finally stepped outside, I followed him at a distance. His car was parked crooked, as if he believed the rules bent around him. He pulled out his phone, speaking too loudly into it. "Relax," he said to someone on the other end. She's not suspicious. She's just emotional. You told me this would be easy. I stopped walking. She's not suspicious. She's just emotional. You told me this would be easy. He wasn't talking about Amelia. He was talking about someone else. And whoever that someone was, they were aware of Amelia's involvement. I stayed behind a parked truck, listening to the rest of the call. No, she hasn't backed out. She'll bring the documents Monday. Yes, I know what's at stake. Trust me, she'll do her part. Documents. Monday at stake. This wasn't just infidelity anymore. Amelia wasn't just betraying me. She was involved in something she didn't fully control. Something that involved Ethan and at least one more person. The moment he drove away, I recorded everything I heard, replaying the words until each syllable etched itself into my mind. When I returned home later that afternoon, Amelia was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. Her eyes flickered to mine, and for the first time since everything began, I saw something resembling fear, not of me, but of the situation spiraling out of her hands. You're quiet lately, she said. Just tired, I answered. Tired of what? I met her eyes. Of pretending everything is fine. For a moment she froze, her fingers tightening around the mug. But instead of panicking, she leaned back and studied me, calculating, thinking, weighing her options. Daniel, she said softly, whatever you're imagining, don't. But it was too late. I wasn't imagining, I was preparing. That night after she fell asleep, I returned to her office. This time, I didn't hesitate. I picked the lock fast. Silent, precise. Inside the drawer lay a single folder, thin, clean. To clean, I opened it. What I saw inside didn't just confirm her betrayal, it rewired everything I thought I knew about her. It wasn't evidence of an affair. It was evidence of a scheme, illegal, calculated, dangerous. And Amelia was right in the center of it, willingly or not. For the first time since all this began, I felt something stronger than anger. I felt purpose. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about stopping something far bigger than a broken marriage. And she had no idea. I was already steps ahead of her. I spent the following morning pretending everything was normal. Pretending was becoming disturbingly easy. Maybe because the truth, once uncovered, becomes a kind of armor. Or maybe because the disappointment had already sunk so deep it stopped hurting. Either way, I played the role of a man who still believed in the life he used to have, but inside, the picture kept replaying: Amelia's nervous hands, the slip of her tongue, the strange connection between her late nights, and the sudden tension in her voice. And that folder I found, the one she clearly didn't intend for me to ever see. Everything pointed to something larger than betrayal, something deliberate, something she had built behind my back. I needed answers, and I needed them without alerting her. That afternoon she left the house claiming she had a long strategy meeting. I waited exactly 6 minutes before picking up my keys and following. I kept enough distance not to be noticed, but close enough to track the exact route. She didn't drive to her office. She didn't drive anywhere even remotely related to her job. She arrived instead at a quiet residential area. Parking in front of a house I had never seen, a man opened the door. Not Ethan, someone older. Someone she clearly trusted. I could see it in the way her shoulders relaxed the moment he stepped out to greet her. He wasn't affectionate. No smiles, no touches. Their interaction was professional, controlled, serious. Amelia disappeared inside with him, and the door shut. I waited in my car for nearly an hour before she finally came out again. Her face was pale, expression tense, like she had been discussing something she wished she could avoid. She checked her phone multiple times as she walked back to the car, her eyes scanning the street like she feared someone might be watching. She didn't notice me. When she drove away, I stepped out and approached the house. There were no nameplates, no signs of who lived there. Curtains shut tight, everything deliberately private, the kind of place used for meetings no one wanted recorded. The doorbell didn't work, or had been disabled, so I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. On the third try, I heard faint movement inside, but whoever was there refused to open. They were waiting for me to leave. Fine. I didn't need them. Not yet. On the way back home I tried to connect the pieces. Amelia's secrecy, the suspicious documents, the man she met, her fear of being found out, and the fact that she had already lied to me enough times to make any explanation worthless. When she finally returned home that evening, she behaved as if the day had been uneventful. She cooked dinner, asked politely about my work, laughed at something on her phone. Watching her was surreal, like watching an actor reciting lines she had rehearsed too often. Later that night, when she fell asleep, I quietly left the bedroom and went to her home office again. I opened the same locked drawer where I had previously found the folder. This time, there was something new, a small USB drive. It was unmarked, no label, no hints. But it had clearly been hidden, tucked beneath a stack of printed spreadsheets. She must have added it after her mysterious meeting. She must have intended to move it somewhere else later, somewhere safer. Not safe enough. I pocketed it and went downstairs, plugging it into my laptop. The moment the files loaded, my heartbeat doubled. Dozens of encrypted documents, hidden email threads, financial transfers between names I didn't recognize. A timeline, very detailed, outlining meetings, tasks, instructions. At first it looked random, but then I saw Amelia's name tied to several of the entries. And Ethan's. They weren't just having an affair. They were involved in something else entirely, something structured, organized, and clearly illegal. The names, the transactions, the coded messages. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood enough. Amelia wasn't the victim of a workplace romance. She was part of a scheme, a dangerous one. A knock suddenly echoed through the silent house. Not loud, but sharp, urgent, deliberate. I froze at my laptop. It was nearly 1 in the morning. No one visits at that hour unless something is wrong. I unplugged the USB, pocketed it, and approached the front door. I didn't open it, just looked through the peephole. It was the same man from earlier, the one she had met at the secret house. He stood completely still, expression unreadable, eyes fixed on the door as if he already knew I was there watching. My stomach tightened. He knocked again, slower this time, but somehow even more threatening in its calmness. I kept silent. After a few seconds, he stepped back from the door, but didn't leave. He remained on the porch, checking his phone, glancing at the windows, waiting. Waiting for Amelia, or waiting for me. I backed away quietly and returned upstairs. Amelia was still asleep, unaware that the world she built behind my back had followed her home. 15 minutes later, the man finally left. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, drive in my hand, watching the faint city lights through the window, replaying every moment of the last weeks, trying to understand what she had dragged me into. The betrayal hurt, but the danger, that could destroy much more than my trust. And deep down I already knew Amelia was lying about far more than just another man. And whatever she was hiding, I had just stepped into the middle of it. My name is Leonard Knox. I'm 39 years old, and until a few weeks ago I still believed I understood the people closest to me. I believed that betrayal was something that happened to other men, to those who weren't careful enough, observant enough, or strong enough to prevent it. I thought I was different. I thought I was in control. Now I know better. For 2 days after my meeting with Cassandra, I barely slept. Not because of fear, that emotion had burned out long ago, but because the pieces of the story were finally snapping into place. Her affair with Marcus wasn't a simple romantic betrayal. It was strategic, coordinated, planned long before I ever suspected a thing. I kept replaying her voice in my head. The voice I used to trust. You're imagining things. Leo, stop overthinking. I wish I had overthought more. I wish I had started sooner. Marcus had gone silent. No calls, no texts, nothing. He wasn't hiding. He was preparing. People like him didn't run unless cornered, and I hadn't cornered him yet. Cassandra, on the other hand, behaved as if nothing had changed. She moved through the house with the same practiced gentle calm, making coffee in the mornings, sitting on the opposite side of the couch in the evenings, scrolling through her phone. Sometimes she glanced at me for a second too long, calculating, waiting for my next move. I gave her none. I needed time, and I needed information, real information, not just suspicions and fragments. So I continued digging into the encrypted logs I'd copied from her devices. Most were mundane: appointments, work chats, shopping lists. But then I found a file buried so deeply it looked like an accidental duplicate. It was in single quotes T. Inside were voice notes, 13 of them, all recorded within the last 3 months. I hesitated before playing the first one, not because I feared the content, but because some part of me still didn't want to hear her voice in a context meant for someone else. But I pressed play. Her whisper filled the room. "He won't suspect anything for at least 2 more weeks." I'd checked his schedule. "Marcus, just stay calm. Don't push him yet." A chill moved through my entire body. The second note was worse. "I scheduled the transfer. Once the document's clear, we'll move the funds. He'll think it was an automated error. He trusts the system too much." The third broke. Whatever doubt remained, "Stop asking if I feel guilty. I made my choice. He'll be fine. He always lands on his feet. We just need to be smart." $7,000. Not 20. Not 50. 7,000. The amount didn't matter. It was the intent behind it. They weren't just betraying me, they were using me. I listened to every recording, each one tightening the knot in my chest. Cassandra wasn't confused, manipulated, or pressured. She was leading it. Marcus was her accomplice, not the other way around. The betrayal was strategic, cold, efficient, and then came voice note 11. "This one changed everything. Marcus, listen to me. Leonard is starting to notice. If this goes wrong, we both go down. He's not stupid. If he finds the final document, it's over." Final document. There was more. I tore through the folders, the backups, the mirrored drives until I found it, a single PDF named Revised Agreement. The content made my throat tighten. They had been planning to move more than just money. They wanted the house, my company shares, even the car registered in my name. They wanted me to sign something during the annual financial review Cassandra always organized every February. A signature trap. One stroke of a pen and I'd lose everything. I sat back in my chair, breath steady, anger strangely distant. It wasn't rage anymore. It was resolve. I knew what I had to do next. That evening Cassandra came home early, smiling like nothing was wrong. Her hair still smelled like the same jasmine perfume she always wore. She leaned against the doorframe and said softly, "You're home early too. Everything okay?" I turned toward her, kept my expression neutral, almost tired. "Just a long day at work," I said. She nodded slowly, searching my eyes for cracks. "You've been quiet lately." "I'm just thinking," I answered. "A lot on my mind." Her smile twitched. "About what?" I gave her the same lies she'd been feeding me for months. "Us." Her shoulders loosened. She thought she was winning. She stepped closer, brushed her fingers against my arm. I let her pretend. I let her think she still owned even a small corner of me. Because the easiest way to defeat someone who lies for a living is to become the calm they never expect. She kissed my cheek. "We'll talk this weekend, okay? Maybe we can go somewhere. Just the two of us." "Sure," I replied. But in my head I wasn't planning a getaway. I was planning something far more precise. I didn't want revenge fueled by anger. I wanted consequences fueled by truth, and I knew exactly how to deliver them. Tonight, I would contact the one person neither Cassandra nor Marcus knew I still had connections with, the person who specialized in uncovering fraudulent transfers and legal setups like the ones they tried to trap me in. Someone who owed me a favor. Someone who never forgot a debt. By the time Cassandra went to bed, I already had the message typed out. I need your help. It's serious. They tried to trap me. I hit send. Tomorrow would begin the real unraveling, not emotional, not loud, but methodical. And when it ended, Cassandra and Marcus wouldn't lose me. They would lose everything they tried to take. I didn't sleep the night before everything finally collapsed. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the paint, listening to the hum of the refrigerator 2 rooms away. It's strange how the smallest noises feel louder when a life is about to split open. By sunrise, I wasn't tired. I was hollow, empty in the way a person becomes when they've already lived through the ending in their mind 100 times. I got dressed slowly, choosing the same gray shirt Amelia once said made me look too serious. Maybe she was right. Maybe I should have taken it as a warning. She always preferred me quieter, softer, easier to manage. Not anymore. When I stepped outside, the air tasted cold and metallic, as if the city itself understood what was coming. I drove without music. The world felt muted, fragile. I rehearsed the plan in my head again and again, not because I doubted it, but because I knew there would be no second chances. By the time I arrived at their office building, I felt nothing. No rage, no grief, only a controlled, steady clarity, the kind that appears only when the worst already happened. The receptionist didn't even look up when I walked past her. People rarely pay attention to men who appear calm, but if anyone had looked me in the eyes in that moment, they would have seen the truth. I wasn't calm. I was done. I reached the elevator and pressed the button. 5th floor. Amelia and Ethan's department. I'd walked through these hallways countless times before, always as a guest, always smiling politely, always believing my world was intact. The carpet looked the same. The glass walls still reflected the same dull fluorescent lights, but I wasn't the same man who used to walk there. I found them exactly where I expected, in a small glass-walled conference room, sitting too close, discussing something on a laptop, their shoulders nearly touching. They looked like a pair who'd convinced themselves they were being subtle. They weren't. I opened the door without knocking. Amelia's head jerked up first, then Ethan's. Their expressions were a perfect mirror of each other: shock, confusion, a flicker of guilt they tried to hide too late. "Daniel?" she whispered, standing up so quickly her chair screeched against the floor. "What are you doing here?" It was the first time I'd seen her genuinely afraid of me. I didn't raise my voice, didn't move fast. I simply slid a folder onto the table. "Read it." Ethan swallowed hard. "What is this?" "Proof," I said, "of everything the two of you thought you were hiding. Emails, screenshots, hotel logs, transaction records, even audio, the one thing neither of them knew existed." Amelia's fingers shook as she opened the folder. Ethan leaned forward, his jaw tightening. I watched them read. I watched their faces lose color. I watched the realization hit them, not just that I knew about the affair, but that I knew about the financial part of it too. The part tied to the internal investigation they thought was buried. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd betrayed their company. They'd betrayed the law. And they had no idea I'd discovered their involvement in the data siphoning scheme, the extra layer of deceit Amelia kept hidden even from Ethan. The one that could end careers, ruin lives. I stepped closer. "I know everything." Amelia's voice cracked. "Daniel, please, listen." "No," I said quietly. "You don't get to talk first." She closed her mouth. "For months," I continued, "you lied to me. You made me believe I was losing you because of me. You let me blame myself while you were sneaking around with him and doing illegal work on the side." She shook her head violently. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, suddenly pale. "What do you want?" "Money." Silence. I laughed once, cold, low, humorless. "I don't want anything from you." And that was the truth. I didn't want revenge anymore. Not the loud kind. Not the kind they'd expect. I wanted something simpler. The truth to finally matter. For once, the world needed to see them exactly as they were, without the charm, without the excuses. "I've already forwarded the evidence." I said. To corporate, to compliance, to the federal office investigating the breach. Their eyes widened at the same time. You both should expect a call soon. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Amelia stumbled forward, her voice trembling. Daniel, please. You can't do this. You don't understand what will happen. I understand perfectly, I said. That's why I did it. Please, she whispered, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. I made mistakes, but I stepped back. For the first time since I met her, she looked truly small. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel satisfaction. The truth is, I felt exhausted, like something inside me had finally burned through the last of its fuel. You chose this, I said softly. Both of you. Ethan looked away, jaw clenched. He wasn't going to fight it. He knew it was over. He knew he'd lose his job, maybe more. Amelia. She still didn't fully understand yet. Not the consequences, but the finality of what I was saying. I turned toward the door. Daniel, she whispered behind me, her voice cracking on my name. I'm begging you. Don't walk away. Please. I paused only long enough to breathe out the truth I'd been carrying like a stone in my chest. I walked away months ago. I just didn't realize it yet. And then I left, not quickly, not dramatically, just left. Down the hallway, into the elevator, out of the building and into the crisp Portland air. For the first time in a long time, the city didn't feel heavy. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. When I reached my car, my phone buzzed, the first corporate response confirming receipt of my evidence. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The past was already done. And somewhere behind me, in that glass building, the world Amelia built on lies was finally beginning to crack.